Good morning, everyone. I think I've never been at an event where there was already so much applause in the first 30 minutes, so that's a very nice way to start the day, I think. I'm very happy to be here. I want to talk to you about the human touch, getting the hard stuff right in software development. And I like to think, well, Edward just told, I'm from Canon Production Printing. And what we do is, we make printers. We develop products. And I like to think that developing products is quite similar to giving a presentation. To do a good job, you need to know your audience, your customer. Who are you making your product for? So today, I want to get to know you a little bit better. I already saw a lot of faces and names popping up, so I already know you a little bit. But to get to know you even better, we're going to start with a little quiz. It's called the Let's Get in Touch quiz. Well, that sounds good, right? It's only a couple of questions, and you cannot win any prizes. I'm sorry about that. But I hope you want to participate. So let's start with question number 1. When was the first time that you made a print? Sorry? Oh, did I say first? Oh, I meant last. When was the last time you made a print? We're going to do it by raise of hands. Who made a print today? Edward! Thank you very much. Who made a print yesterday? Oh, quite a lot of people. Is there anyone who made a print like last week? Oh, also quite a lot of people. Are there also people here who cannot even remember the last time they made a print? Yeah, I was sort of expecting this. So looking at these answers, I'm happy people are still printing, by the way. But you could argue print is dead. All right. Well, question number 2. Which industry do you think is the biggest industry? We're going to do it by raise of hands again. Who thinks the music industry is the biggest industry? No one? Okay, interesting. Who thinks video games is the biggest industry? A couple of people. Maybe some gamers also in the audience. Who thinks print is the biggest industry? And last but not least, who thinks the semiconductor industry is the biggest? Yeah, I was expecting this. And of course, the semiconductor industry is growing like crazy. But I have some figures from 2022. And you can see print is actually the biggest industry. Semiconductor industry is really catching up. So I think if I do this talk in 2 years from now, it maybe look different, but still print is a very, very big industry. Well, how is that possible, you think? Because not a lot of people print a lot of stuff anymore. But actually, a lot of stuff is still being printed. Think about newspapers, think about books, think about signage. Think about the clothes you're wearing, it's often printed on textile. Think about wallpaper, those kind of things. So there is still a lot of print in the world. So we can say print is not dead. Well, it makes me happy, I work at a printing company. And now we go to the third question, which is the easiest question of all. Who has ever bought a book online, like on Amazon or on bol.com? Almost everyone. I was expecting this answer, of course. You may not know it, but a lot of book printing is still done on traditional offset presses. And this market and this volume is actually declining. But what's growing is digital printed books. So when you buy a book on Amazon, when it's not like in the top 10 bestseller list, it is printed when you order it. You push that button and a printer goes to work. And it's a very high chance it's actually printed on a Canon printer, which I like. I want to show you a short video of, maybe it's not coming yet. Oh, I'll do that later. I have one more question on the book market. How fast do you think that this digital book printing market is growing? I saved the most difficult question for last. Who thinks 3%? No one. 5%? 7? And 9? I think most of you had the correct answer. It's 7% actually. So it shows that the digital book printing market is really, really growing market, and it's a very interesting market for us. I want to show you a short clip of Amazon, of one of their production factories just outside of Chicago. And what you basically see is how they produce books. I condensed it a lot because it's not a very short process. Here it is. Does it work? And the sound?
Now the second type of printing that we do is what we call cut sheet. We have these large printers that pretty much print books. So we have a large fleet of printers. You'll notice that we have quite a bit. This is just one side of our building. And then you see here, the books are coming down the line, and they're coming down the side. So here we have the finished book. You'll notice that every book is unique coming down the line. We have novels, we have coloring books, we have textbooks. So it truly is based on the name.
Yeah, so what you saw is that all these books that come out are actually different, which is the big benefit of digital printing. Because if you use offset presses, you can produce a lot of books, but they're all the same. And this is the big benefit. So the next time you order that book, when you press that button, you can think back about this video and then you know a bit how it's made. So thanks for participating. This was my getting to know you a little bit better. I'm not sure if we have a winner, but I also don't have a prize, so I think that doesn't really matter. But what's actually at the heart of a quiz is also what's the key message of my talk today. Because at the heart of a quiz, I think, is curiosity, wanting to discover things, wanting to find out about things. And working in the high-tech industry and in the software industry, I think it requires a lot of hard skills. Those are super important. But my talk today is about soft skills. It's about the other stuff that you also need. How important are soft skills in software development? How important are they for you to work together with other people? And that's what we're going to explore today. Before we do that, I want to show you this picture. Do you know which painting it is, or where it comes from? Anyone? Rome, yes, it's in Venice. Sistine Chapel, it's painted by Michelangelo, it's on the ceiling, yes. It's quite appropriate in this setting. This is part of a fresco, which is called The Creation of Adam. And what you see in this image is the touch of God. He gives life to Adam. And I really like to use this picture to show what I think the power of software is. Because I think software can bring stuff to life. At Canon, we make print systems, and we do that in multidisciplinary teams. So we have people in mechanics, physics, chemistry, electronics, software, of course. And without any of those, we cannot make our products. But the thing that really adds the behavior to our products, the thing that people interact with, it's the software. The software is the heart and the soul of our machines. And for me, I really like to use this as a metaphor. So let me tell you something quickly about Canon. You probably know Canon, like this. Canon is like a super big brand in cameras. What you might not know is that cameras is not one of the growth areas of Canon. The growth areas are in business to business. It's in medical equipment, it's in network cameras, it's also sort of camera, but it's for like security systems. OLED equipment, and also commercial print. And commercial print, that's what we do at Canon Production Printing. And we actually do it right around the corner here in Venlo. Our headquarters is based here. And here is also our largest R&D site. In the R&D of Canon Production Printing, we have about 1,000 people in 3 locations. So the biggest site is in Venlo, then we have a site near Munich, and we have a software development site in Romania, in Timișoara. And together, all these people work on these very innovative print systems. So we are one of the top 10 investors in R&D in the Netherlands, and we rank every year in the top 5 of patent registration. So we do a lot of innovations, also in the software domain, by the way. I want to show you one example of the products that we make, just to give you a view. This is an example from the Arizona product. We call this a flatbed printer. Basically, it's a very big table. You put something on it, and the print heads move across it, and they print. So you can print on anything, as long as it's flat. And I've seen customers do very interesting things. Of course, there's customers who print like signs and boards and those kind of things. I saw also customers who print on darts boards, you know, throw the arrows at, guitars, wooden crates. I even saw a customer who prints on toilet seats, which I thought was also very interesting. So you can do basically whatever you want. And for this printer, we also developed something special, and we call it our elevated print technology. And basically it means that you can add a texture on top of your print. And what you see in these images is Clement, my colleague. He's working on a giant reproduction of the painting of Vermeer, the girl with the pearl earring, which is currently on display in the Mauritshuis in The Hague. And it's huge, it's 4 by 4 meters. And it actually shows all the brush strokes just as it was painted. And the great thing about it is that you can touch it. You can go up there and you can touch this painting. And I brought an example, a small one. I couldn't bring the 4 by 4. If you're interested, you can come after my talk and check it out. You can just touch this. You can feel actually how the paint was put on the painting, but then print it. So we have a lot of customers who use this for making art reproductions. So this is just one example of what we do. And we don't just develop the printers who do this, but of course we also develop the software to be able to make these elevations, because you need to prepare these jobs, so we also do that. Well, all of this we do in our team, and in my team. So I'm the Vice President Software Development at Canon Production Printing. We have about 200 software developers in Venlo and in Romania. And together they work on the controllers inside these print systems, but also on all the application software to create, for example, these files. Well, now I know a little bit about you. You know a little bit about Canon. And now I think it's almost time for me to share something very personal. But I first need to drink some water. Because I have a little confession to make. And it always makes me a bit nervous when I talk about this, because it's something that I don't really like to share in public. But still, we've gotten acquainted, so I think now I feel okay sharing it with you. Are you ready? Here it comes. I like to touch things. Yeah. So let me explain why. I'm not going to touch you, by the way, don't worry. But my background is in industrial design. I was trained to create things, objects, that you can interact with, that you can touch. That's what I do. That's how I was educated. It's also what I like to do. And here I am today, leading a team of 200 people who all make stuff that I cannot touch. And for me, it's very difficult and it's very challenging. And to be honest, I think it's not just something that I find challenging, because we work in a large multidisciplinary company, and I see the same thing with all these people who don't have a background in software development. They just think, what are these guys doing all day? Sitting behind their computer, writing a lot of code, but you cannot touch it. So, something else first. I was talking to this guy a while ago, and he said, software actually is like bacteria. It's everywhere, but you cannot see it. And it just keeps on growing. Every single day, it just keeps on growing. And it just gets out of control sometimes, but it's like bacteria. And I really like this metaphor. So, yeah, bacteria, I also cannot touch them. Or maybe I will touch them, but I don't know. And also in today's world, the developments are going so fast. So like AI, everybody's talking about AI. And I think it's very exciting, but a lot of people are also very scared about AI and the developments in the world. Let me show you two graphs. This is the first one. This is a study that was done in the US about AI. It's about, do people find it exciting, or are they really concerned about AI? And you see that the majority of people is more concerned than excited about AI. And also this number is growing. I think I can understand in a way that that is happening. I have another study that I found that a lot of people, this is like the bacteria I just mentioned, they asked people, do you ever use AI? 33% of people said, there's 6,000 people worldwide, yeah, I use AI. But in reality, it was like 77% of people who was actually using AI features. They just don't know. And then they said, do you understand what AI is? 70% said, yes, we know what AI is. But if you then look, like 50% don't understand that AI can solve problems. 35% don't understand that AI can mimic human beings. So basically, there's a big knowledge gap between a lot of people and the technology that is developing at such a rapid speed. And for me, this is part of the job, I think, that we have in the software community. It's not just to keep developing these great products and work on these exciting technologies. It's also to make sure that people understand what is actually happening. What are we doing and how is it helping them? And that's also how I like to look at my job at Canon. So I don't just want to develop the software discipline and make sure that we do great products. But I also want to bridge the gap between software development and all the other people that we have in the company. And I also want to focus on what matters most for our customers, what adds the most value. So, now it's time to talk about soft skills, because I said you need a lot of hard skills, but soft skills are also very important. And I think we need 3 specific soft skills to be successful. Here they are: curiosity, courage, and connection. They all start with my favorite letter, and it's also easier to remember them if they all start with the same letter. So let's dive into curiosity first. Curiosity is about wanting to learn things, wanting to discover things, wanting to find out new things. And of course, it's also super important when you're developing your skills. But I think the most important thing you need to be curious about are your customers. For us at Canon, our customers are some of the world's biggest print companies out there. Together they make like gazillions of prints every year. And for us, it's really crucial to understand them, because they rely on us to be successful in their business. We're a B2B company, so they really depend on us. And when you go to these people, to these customers, you often see them like this. They touch stuff, they scratch stuff, this is a guy smelling the prints. People use magnifying glasses, they use all kinds of tools, all to examine every print, because everything needs to be perfect, the stuff that comes out of this printer. So these people are also very touchy people, like me. They also like to touch stuff, just like me, so I'm not alone in this. And printing, in a way, is all about touching people with emotions. And that's why I think to be able to be successful in this industry, we need to know our customers, but I think it's true for every industry. Product development is an iterative process, you know that, huh? And at Canon, we have installed several roles of people who have a responsibility to look into the customer. We have design researchers who go out into the field, talk to customers, find out what's going on there, and they also bring this information into our organization to inspire people, to let them grow their awareness about our customers. We have, of course, architects who translate the user needs into requirements. We have quality leads who are responsible for the question, are we making the right product? And they do validations throughout product development. We have usability researchers who do testing. We have a test lab in which we invite customers, they use our products. We put people in a room to observe it, especially the people who make stuff that is then being tested, because that's always very nice to see how people actually use it and if they really understand. And we also have business support engineers who are basically on the borderline between sales and our R&D organization. We make complex products. There's a lot of complex technology in it. And our sales force, of course, they are technically skilled, but they need some help sometimes to understand all the developments and all the stuff we put in our machines. So these people are really there to support that process. And this is all nice, but I think that all developers and engineers need to know something about customers. Because everybody makes so many decisions during a day. You pick an item of a backlog, you start working on it. It really helps to have a good knowledge of your customer, because the tiny decisions you make, they all have a big impact on what the final product is going to be. So I would like to encourage all of you to go out there, find your customers, talk to them. Sometimes it's not easy, especially if you're in a big organization. You can start by talking to your colleagues who see customers, ask them questions, and make the customer very important in everything you do. Because it will lead to better products, will lead to happier customers, which will lead to happier everyone, I think. Now it's time for the second soft skill. Courage. Yes. So, for me, curiosity is very important. You need to be curious about your customers. But only being curious isn't enough. You need curiosity to discover what your customers want, and then you need to do something with it. And doing something with it, that requires courage, especially the courage to make decisions. So I want to show you an example, because I think the main point where we interact with our customers through our products is the user interface. It's basically where the customer touches us and where we touch the customer. That's where we touch. And if you look at this user interface, you might think it's quite empty. There's not a lot of information on it. This is part of a printer that you saw in the video of Amazon, a printer that prints books. And what we did here is, this is a very old example, by the way. I was hesitating if I should use it. This design was made in 2006, when we first introduced this machine. It basically shows an operator of a printer when he needs to put paper in the machine, because that's the main thing. The printer can never stop. It should always run. So we designed a very clean user interface for this. It doesn't mean that there's not a lot of functionality in this machine. We just chose which information is the most relevant to display to the customer. And the reason we still have this almost 20 years later, of course we did some visual updates, etc. But the reason we still have it is because it's so much appreciated. People cannot live without this anymore. It's what they use. It's their primary interaction point. And of course there's a lot more functionality. But our designers and developers have chosen what the most important is, and they were able to do this because they understand our customers. They did a lot of validations during development. But in the end, it also requires courage. Because we have all these people who develop amazing features and amazing functionality. So you think, yeah, it's all great, we should put it all in. But if you end up with an unusable product, well, then your features also are not that great anymore. So it requires courage to leave things out. Leaving things out, I think, is much more difficult than putting stuff in. Now we're going on a little trip. Who knows where this picture was taken? Correct. Who has ever been to Japan? Good. I want to talk about Japan for a little bit. I lived in Japan for 2 years, and I worked there. And it was a great time. And I lived there in this tiny apartment, because a lot of things are very tiny in Japan, especially the houses. I think it was like 35 square meters. But it had a lot of buttons. There were buttons everywhere in my apartment. I'm going to show you a couple. So this is an interesting UI. Who knows what this is for? Yes! 10 points. It has a lot of interesting features. I'm not going to explain them into detail now, but, well, this was an interesting panel of buttons in my apartment. This is another one. Any guesses what this is for? Sort of. It's to open the door and the intercom to talk to people, but it's also the security system. It's a fine line to cross. I experienced that firsthand, so it's very complicated also because everything is in Japanese, of course, but you could use it to set the alarm, but also to open the door. And sometimes it would just start talking to me, and I would have no clue what to do. So it's a very interesting panel as well. Then this one. Any ideas? Say again? Almost. It was in my kitchen. It is to set the temperature of the water. Yeah. And this pink button that you see on the right, in the middle, that's my favorite button. It's actually to fill the bath upstairs in the bathroom. And it was downstairs in my kitchen. It took me like a month to figure out, because I would come in the bathroom and I would, who filled the tub? But it was me. I just pushed the button. I had no clue what it did, so it's an interesting button. Then this one I want to talk about a little bit longer. What do you think this is for? I'll give you it. It's air conditioning. You see there's quite a lot of buttons, huh? If you make an air conditioning, can you give me some features that you would need? Temperature, yes. Airflow, humidity. Power. I can think of another one, whether it should swing or not, those kind of things. But you see there's a lot more buttons, huh? And the interesting thing is, this was a panel that was attached to my wall, and you could actually open it up, and there was even a lot more buttons. And I have no clue what they do, but it was all there. And if this is not enough for you, there was also a remote control, which also had like this sliding panel with even more buttons. So yeah, I think this is like everything you could ever want. And for me, I like to use these examples to illustrate that I think this is one of the biggest differences in approach, in philosophy between the Western world and also Japanese world. Because the example I just showed you, over here, we feel we need to make a lot of decisions for our customer to give them a better experience, to give them a better product. In Japan, I learned it's the other way around. They develop a lot of features. They're all very important. And who am I as a developer to choose for a customer what he thinks is important, what he will need? We should give it all to them, and then they can choose. And for me, this is really a key difference, and it's all about finding the right balance between usability and flexibility. And I think there's no right or wrong. It's different cultures. People also have different expectations. And in the end, everybody wants to make a good product for their customer. But I'm from the Western world. I really, really believe that we need to make decisions, and that requires courage. So that is my second soft skill that I find very important. Now, we go to the third one. Does anyone remember what it was? I heard it. Connection, yes. So, as a software professional, I think you need to connect to the people around you. And we see that also at Canon. I mentioned a couple of times, we work with a lot of other disciplines. There's a lot of people with a background in mechanical development, in electronics, physics, chemistry. We develop our own inks, for example, so we have a lot of chemistry people. But as a software developer, it's important that you learn to connect to these people. And I will explain to you why. I think in a lot of industries, we are under a lot of pressure. A lot of time pressure, a lot of cost pressure. Things need to be more efficient, more effective, also more sustainable. And for us, it means that we are changing the way we develop products. We are relying a lot more these days on making virtual models of everything that happens in our printers. Virtual models, machine learning, AI, all these things are super important, and they're also very important for us. So basically what we are doing is we're building virtual print systems now to support us during product development, which is, I think, very exciting. I will explain about it a bit more to you, but before I go in there, I also want to show you what modeling and models were before. This gentleman right here, he's like a local celebrity in Venlo, I think, is actually the first model maker that we have at our company. He retired in the meantime. His name is Hai Goud. He's actually a knight. He was honored by the King of the Netherlands because of appreciation for all his work as a volunteer. For example, in the OC Museum. OC is the previous name of our company before we were acquired by Canon. And Hai is a real craftsman. He makes models of our printers, but from wood. Let me show you a vintage example. I found this photograph in the archive. What he did, what his job was to create a product. Well, it looked like a finished product, but it didn't do anything. It was just a mock-up. And it was used for various things, for marketing purposes, because back in the day, you couldn't do renderings or whatever, you just had to take pictures. And if you had to wait until a product was completely developed and then you start taking your pictures and making your brochures, it's very, very late. So we had Hai, and Hai made these models, and they were there from the start. And it's really sped up product development. It was not just used for this, but it was also used to show all the people who are developing a product what they are working on. Because everybody works on a small part. And he would make this model. It would stand there in the middle of a room, and people could see it. They would know the thing that I'm working on is eventually going to end up in a product that's going to look like this. So it has a very big meaning. It's very significant for us. He also made models like this, which were more about experiments on interaction. How should a drawer open of a printer? Can people reach it, etc. So it was really used in different stages of product development. Well, this is not the type of model making that we do anymore. The models we make now are like this. So I brought some examples, and some of them are from the ink corner. I just mentioned we develop our own inks. So we make models like this to predict the water activity in inks, to predict the absorption rate. So if you put a drop of ink on a paper, how fast is it going to be absorbed by the paper, those kind of things. We also use models, software models, to analyze our competitor machines, which is also interesting. We also, this is another one from the ink domain, how actually a drop of ink is jetted on the paper. We model all these kind of things. We do it also to be able to do testing before a machine is completely finished. And we use it, also virtual reality models that you see here, to train our service technicians, because our machines, they are very big. They are not always available for all the service technicians that need to be trained, so we have a virtual reality training that people can actually use, and they can see the machine, they can move parts, etc. And it's very helpful for educating and training them. Well, it's quite different from the picture that I showed you, right? This nice wooden model that you can take a picture of and then compare to this. And, well, these models, they're all nice, but most of them, they only show a part of a print system. And what we are doing now is basically we want to create a complete print system in a model. And this, I think, is very exciting. It's also very challenging, because I told you, I gave you my confession that I like to touch things. We have a lot of people in the company who like to touch things. And if we go to this digital and this virtual domain, it's very difficult for them. What we do when we develop products is we create a project. We put a lot of people together in one room, and they are going to develop a printer together. Typically, it looks like this. It doesn't look very digital. It looks a bit messy. There's just a lot of people and a lot of desks, and in the middle of a room, typically there is a prototype. That's one of the first things we do. When we start a project, we start working to build one prototype to see, can we make this work? And it's a nice thing, because all these people, they can see it every day. They walk there, they can touch it, they can interact with it, they put their stuff in it, and it grows over time. And now we said, for one of our next projects, we're not going to do that anymore. We're only going to make a virtual print system. Whew, it's very difficult. A lot of people tell me it's impossible. It's not people with a background in software development. It's other people who tell me that it's not possible. And I understand the hesitation. Because this thing that these people were used to, this model that they can just walk towards and interact with, it's not there anymore in this form. There will be still some physical setups, of course. We cannot develop a printer without doing any physical setups. But there will also be a lot of models. And this will all be connected in a way. But for people, I think it's going to be very difficult because it's not so tangible anymore. And that is why I think connection is such an important skill. Because we have a responsibility, also from the software domain. This software is going into all these disciplines. It's going into mechanics, it's going into electronics, and the mechanical developers don't have the expertise by themselves to create models. They need software developers for it, but the software developers also cannot do all of this because they're not mechanical experts. So we need to work together. But for these people, when I walk around in these rooms, we have many of those rooms, I think not having their model feels a bit like this, feels a bit like a black hole. What's happening here? Well, I don't trust that this is going to work. So I really think we have a responsibility here from software to reach out and to connect to all these people. And for me, this brings me to the end. So I want to sum up the 3 soft skills that I just introduced, that I think are very important. The curiosity for your customers, but also for the people around you. The courage to take decisions. Also the courage to dare to fail, because things will not always go right the first time, luckily. It would be very boring if everything would go right the first time. And the third one is connection, a real connection to the people around you. Well, this brings me to the end, but it also brings me back to where we started with this painting, the human touch in software. And you remember these bacteria I talked about, probably. Of course, there's a lot of bad bacteria out there, but there's also a lot of good bacteria, and they are crucial for us to survive, to exist. And if I think about software, I think software, a lot of things can go very wrong if software is going bad. But I think, on the other hand, software is also the thing that drives our innovation. Software is driving our world. All the exciting things at the moment that are happening in the world, it's all software. So we need to be very conscious and very careful about this. And we all know, I mentioned AI earlier. Software is no longer just being made by people. Also, AI can make software. And AI can do a lot of things. AI can do decision making, they can do a lot of data analysis. AI can do many things. But there's also still some things that AI cannot do. I thought I should try to recreate this touch of God with an image generating thing, AI-based stuff. This picture I made in October. And at the first glance you think, oh, it's pretty good. Until you look a bit closer, then you notice that the human hand has like 6 real fingers and 1 kind of pinky thing. Also the robot has 6 fingers, but maybe that's normal for robots, I don't know. And I did this in October, and I tried this again yesterday. I used a couple of different AI-based image generators. Well, yeah, look for yourself. This one is also interesting. I think this one I also liked. I don't know if this is a handshake. Maybe it's a new style of handshake. This one, I thought it was pretty okay, but yeah, I think AI can be very smart, but there's also still a lot of things that AI cannot do. AI really sucks still at drawing hands. Drawing hands is very, very difficult. It's, by the way, also very difficult for people. When I had drawing classes in university, drawing hands was like super, super difficult. It needs a lot of energy. It's also the case for AI. So AI can do a lot. AI cannot do this. What I think AI can also not do is replace the value of human creativity and human emotion in decision making. Because decision making is not just a rational thing, it's also an emotional thing. I think AI will not replace curiosity, it will not replace courage, it will not replace connection. And I think these are the things that are crucial when we develop new products. So yes, AI is super exciting, but it's also not going to solve all the problems in the world. I want to end with 3 pieces of advice, based on my own experience. First, make software visible. I think we have a responsibility as a software community to make people understand what we're doing. I really think that is needed, especially with all these new developments that people find very scary. What I think is needed to do this is also to make yourself visible. Go out there, talk to people, connect. And the third one is, be kind and have fun. It's a really hard world. I know everybody is under pressure. You can be tough, of course. Be tough on decisions, be tough on the contents. But be kind to each other and also have fun. I think it will make the world a much nicer place if we act like this. And for me, this is the human touch in software. Thanks.